Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. I'm just reflecting that this is my first occasion to give a reflection in the new space on a Saturday or one pra night. It has a very different feel, so spacious and peaceful in here. It was peaceful in the other place, in the other hall too, but there's really a great sense of light and space in here. Different perspective. As most of you know, along with others, I've been away, spending a bit of time up at our hermitage this past month. I've been away for just about a month, a couple of weeks up there, a week with family back in Boston, and then up until last week, a week in England at Amaravati for the International Elders Meeting, gathering where almost 100 bhikkhus and novices and anagarikas gathered together along with a great number of lay supporters for the monastic sangha and nuns, a group of the Sila Dara from the Amaravati community. And for 5 days of meetings, seems like it happens about every 3 years or so. It was a very fruitful time. Luang Pa has shared some of the experiences in, I guess, in morning reflection period. But it was a very useful occasion, a number of things being discussed, and one of the primary focuses that we talked about was how to preserve the style, training, standards of the Ajahn Chah tradition, the standards of practice that Ajahn Chah himself set forth, created during his time as the abbot at Wat Pah Pong, and how to weather the forces of change, the inevitabilities of change, the expansion of the Sangha from just one monastery, Wat Pah Pong, to many branch monasteries in Thailand and throughout the world, how to preserve the heart of the teachings that Ajahn Chah and the trainings that Ajahn Chah set up. So there was a fair amount of time in small groups especially, reviewing actually what was the core, what was the heart of the Ajahn Chah training style. And I think that for myself, just what became very clear was how comprehensive a set of teachings and trainings that he set forth, that he put into practice, put into real life, how comprehensive it was. It wasn't just a bit and piece here and there of teachings of a particular style. It was very far-reaching. And very notably, a strong emphasis on Core Wat, monastery, monastery protocols, duties and protocols of those training in the monastery, and very comprehensive and tight structure that he set forth and expected of all of his monastics. Of course, he was, very broad-reaching and didn't stop there. It traveled all the way through not only the development of virtue and generosity, but also very strong teachings, very much emphasis on the meditation practice, the development of calm, concentration, the development of wisdom, particularly emphasizing all along the way right view and the understanding of, really the deep understanding of suffering and how it arises and how it ceases. So in that way, Luang Por Chah was following very closely the actual teachings, the comprehensive teachings of the Buddha, not just picking and choosing bits and pieces to focus on, but establishing a full and comprehensive training based on the fullness of the Buddha's dispensation. And we were all, I'm sure we were all just, I was certainly marveling at how well he succeeded in realizing that, in establishing that in a practice environment, monastic practice environment. So how to uphold that and continue that, not let it deteriorate, was the focus. One of the readings that Luang Por Pasano did the other day from Ajahn Jayasaro's upcoming biography of Ajahn Chah, I was tickled with one of the stories of when Ajahn Chah was visiting England on one of his 2 trips to the West. I'll probably get some of the details of this a little bit off, but essentially he was visiting some place, and a particular layman had taken on the task of looking after his bowl after the meal, washing it and taking care of it. And it was related how Ajahn Chah went and spent a significant amount of time and attention and caring with this man who was washing the bowl and showing him all the details of how to properly wash a bowl. And for those of you who may not know, it's all of the details of very what would seem like minor aspects of daily life are often spelled out very clearly and in very precise detail in the training standards that the Buddha set forth and that Ajahn Chah also espoused and followed, and even how to properly wash the bowl, how to hold it, how to treat it, what not to do to it, the kind of, like scraping it with sharp objects, and how to dry it properly and give it a little bit of sun after drying it, wrapping it up, putting it away, not resting it on hard surfaces, not putting them too close to the edge of a tabletop, all the refinements of how to properly wash a bowl. And Ajahn Chah was instructing this man in detail. And of course, Ajahn Sumedho was accompanying him in this trip, and somehow it was overheard, and I don't know if it was in response to a question or a comment, but it was overheard Ajahn Chah saying to this man with what I'm sure was a twinkle in his eye, Sumedho can show you the path to Nibbana. I'll show you how to wash a bowl properly. So I was tickled that this very accomplished meditation master was emphasizing his training, even on a trip abroad like this, and how important just the attention to what we would normally think of as maybe inconsequential small details, how crucial that is to the development of the path. and how crucial the full training is, particularly in contrast to how sometimes it's developed and taught in the West, and sometimes almost reduced to a very simplistic, all you need to do is be mindful kind of presentation of Dhamma practice. But it's much, much, much more than that. So in the Buddhist teachings, for those of you who are familiar with some of the suttas and the way it's presented in the canon, there's a number of different kinds of structures that the teachings are presented in their comprehensive way. The most common ones that I think many of us are familiar with, most of you are familiar with, are the structure of the Four Noble Truths as being a very comprehensive structure for presenting the teachings, as well as the Eightfold Path. And it's kind of, I always marvel at how well those two teachings are articulated and presented and organized in a sense, because they both are contained very neatly within each other. The Four Noble Truths, with the fourth Noble Truth being actually the Eightfold Path, and in the Eightfold Path, that the Four Noble Truths are contained within Transcendent Right View, the first of the Eightfold Path. So each of those structures for teaching are contained within each other. A very neat package. Another way of organizing the comprehensive teachings is through the presentation as the gradual path, and this came up in tea time discussion a few nights ago. We've been having some good, lively tea time discussions the past week, and there was some question about just what is the gradual training. And so we talked about that a bit, and as I thought about it subsequently, it just really occurred to me how Ajahn Chah's training was very much mirroring of that gradual training, the comprehensiveness again of it, the thoroughness with which he upheld all of the things that were found in the gradual training. Not just following, say, the basic Patimokkha rules, but also the very large collection of protocols and duties, as well as the full development of activities of body, speech, and mind, the mind development as well. So the gradual training begins with the establishment of virtue in most ways of looking at it, thinking of it in terms of the precepts as the essential building block of practice for the lay community, the five precepts, the lay community not practicing in monasteries, the five precepts, and how essential that basic attitude of establishing the quality of non-harming as the basis for one's interaction with the world, and how important that peace and ease of mind that is without regret in relation to how we present ourselves in relation to other beings. So not taking life, not speaking falsely, not telling lies, not taking anything that's not ours, not stealing, not taking advantage of people in a sexual way. All of these basic forms of non-harming are the essential building blocks of developing a peaceful mind, peaceful heart. The other precept, the fifth precept of not taking intoxicants as a way of emphasizing that we want to take care in our lives and with how we interact with other people. So that being the basic building block for the gradual path. And of course the monastics follow those precepts in just much more expanded detail, as well as a whole full set of renunciate precepts to just help simplify life, to make things more straightforward and less confusing. So the full set of precepts, patimokkha precepts, that the monastics take on as the ground for spiritual practice. Gradual path then being talked about in relation to restraint of the senses, and beginning to look at how our lives are usually spent just bouncing back and forth amongst the different sense spheres, seeking delight, trying to avoid unpleasantness, whether it's in sight, sounds, tastes, tactile sensations, smells, or ideas, the intellect. Just noticing, beginning to notice how the power of craving, the power of aversion is constantly drawing us out from what could be a peaceful, centered state of existence. That the strength of sense desire, the strength of ill will, aversion, keeps us bouncing from different sights and sounds and tastes and ideas and memories, trying to get some sort of sense of ease, of well-being from the sensory world. And to start to notice how painful that is, to be completely controlled by those obstructive states of mind, that constant wanting for something different, for something new, that constant doing whatever we can to escape that which is unpleasant or difficult, that we don't want to have to face. How much energy and time is spent just seeking and avoiding through the sense bases. And when we start to realize the pain of that habitual way of living, we can start to restrain ourselves from operating on that level all the time. And the basic way to do that is by, at least in terms of the desirable things that we're always seeking, is to reduce the amount of input that comes in by simplifying our lives and simplifying the places we go and the things we do, what we put into our sensory experience. But even more importantly, learning how to attend appropriately with the sense data that does come in. Because we're never going to be able to turn ourselves completely away from sensory experience. We've got eyes and ears and all the sense organs, and we've got the mind. And there's always going to be sensory stimulation coming in. It's unless we put ourselves into a sensory deprivation tank and close the door and never have any kind of interaction, it's inevitable part of living. So we have to learn how to deal with it in a way that doesn't ignite the defilements in the mind, the obstructions in the mind, and it is by not, as the Buddha says, it's by not attending to the signs and features of that particular sense realm or that particular sense experience that is the way to sense restraint, more peaceful state of mind, so that we learn over time by experience and reflection what it is that is, when we're attending to it, that causes the stimulation and that excitement or that aversion and that anger, and how we're inappropriately attending to those, exaggerating the beauty or the perceived beauty of a particular sense object in order to get a bit of a thrill. We see only that which we want to see, and we can consciously or unconsciously screen out the unpleasant aspects of anything in the sense realm. So watching how we do that, watching how the defilements will take over, the tendencies of the mind will take over and exaggerate what it is that it sees as pleasant, and how it tends to look away from that which may not be so pleasant and stimulating to the senses. Get to learn how that process works, and to start encouraging us to exist in the sense world in a more balanced way, in a more actually truthful way, to see the sense experience, the sense world in its reality, both in the pleasant and the unpleasant experiences, but not to screen out that which we don't want to see and to only attend to that which we do want to experience. So this is really essentially the core of sense restraint, not just shutting off senses, sensory experience, but experiencing them, seeing them with proper equanimity, proper wisdom. The gradual path that the Buddha taught and also very much emphasized in Ajahn Chah monasteries, Ajahn Chah training, to be moderate in eating and moderate in sleeping, devoted to wakefulness. We all have to eat, but by virtue of following a restraint of not eating outside the period between dawn and noon, we put some limits on that. And not only to just help reduce the whole strong sensual drive in the area of food, but to really establish a healthy body that's also an appropriate and conducive vehicle for meditation practice, so that we don't have a huge amount of restrictions on the kinds of food. The Buddha was quite allowing in what could be eaten, few restrictions, but mostly open-ended, but was more encouraging us to be moderate in the sense that take what we need for the basis of maintaining the body as a vehicle, but not overdoing it, because we've all experienced overdoing it and see what our afternoons feel like when we've overeaten. It's not a very good basis for establishing alertness and good practice afternoon if we overeat. So it takes some skill to learn how to do that, as getting used to just having a limited period of time during the day to eat. But moderation in eating is a clear, important aspect of the gradual path, as is devotion to wakefulness, overindulging in sleep just really, as probably, again, many of us have experienced, it just increases the dullness of the mind. So there's an optimal amount of sleep that we have to learn how to develop for ourselves. Then the gradual training moves more towards some of the development of aspects of mind, but starting with what the Buddha called, the mindfulness and clear comprehension. A lot of the teachings, the contemplative teachings and meditation teachings were emphasized around contemplation of the body, mindfulness of the body. So even the development of the mind is centered around mindfulness and clear comprehension of the body. So we're not in formal practice most of the day, or a lot of the day, when we're engaged in activity, when we're getting to and from our kutis, taking care of bodily necessities, daily routines tends to be a very physical aspect of our experience. And so the Buddha said that we should develop mindfulness and clear comprehension in all of our activities, whatever posture we're in, sitting, standing, lying down, walking, whether we're working. We should be aware of every activity of our body, how our arms move, the direction we're facing when we're turning, walking back and forth, sitting, when we're engaged in eating or drinking or even urinating, defecating, to be very aware of the movement, the action of the body as a way of preparing the mind, developing the mind to seeing clearly the nature of our experience. So mindfulness and clear comprehension were part of the gradual training. And then as we move on to more of the contemplative practices, the understanding and working with the hindrances, very much emphasized in the Buddha's path, in the training of the mind, and in our teaching from Ajahn Chah. There's a lot of different ways that the hindrances are talked about and addressed and encouraged to be contemplated in. I have more recently myself tended to appreciate the reflection, particularly as I'm settling down into meditation, not just identifying which hindrances are present, but almost more going through and encouraging myself to consider what are the qualities of a mind that is free from the hindrances, because that's what we're looking for. The basic level of entry into concentration, entry into samadhi, is a mind that's free of the hindrances. And rather than just dwelling only on, what hindrances are present, really reflecting on what is the quality of the mind, say, that is without sense desire, the first hindrance. What is it like to be free of that pull, that wish for something more, for something stimulating in the sense world? What's it like to not have to be pulled by that habit, by that tendency? And it's a sense of contentment with just what we have, with the way things are right now, with the quality of not needing anything, not wanting anything. What does that feel like? We all have experienced that to some degree when we're not being pulled and yanked around. What does that feel like? A sense of ease, a sense of well-being, relaxed non-agitation, and to just really experience that, allow ourselves to reflect on that, and even if it's not completely present in this moment, to imagine what that might be like, what that feels like, be completely at ease and content. What it might be like to be completely free of ill will, the second hindrance. To know the quality of compassion, a sense of warmth, a sense of well-wishing, a sense of gentleness to ourselves and to all other beings around us. What does that feel like? Get a sense for that. What would it be like to be completely free of aversion, ill will? Being, just that sense of warmth, caring, gentleness that we all have the potential for. What's it like to not be under the sway of dullness and drowsiness? The third hindrance. What quality of mind comes up when we think of the mind free from that hindrance? It's one of alertness and brightness and cool clarity and energy, good energy. So to just instill that positive notion in our minds, that's what a mind free from dullness and drowsiness might feel like. What would a mind free from restlessness, agitation, what would that feel like? Words that come to mind are still, centered, peaceful, very calm. And just to use those words to induce that sense of non-restlessness, non-agitation, stillness, calm. And the fifth hindrance of doubt. What's it like to be free from that? What are the positive qualities associated with freedom from doubt? The basic one that comes to my mind is a sense of confidence. No questioning happening, no sense of being lost. A sense of security, that what we're doing, what is going on in my practice, that I'm heading in the right direction, even if it's not perfect, of confidence that this is the path, this is the way, this is the right approach. So really establishing a sense of freedom from the hindrances, even if it's just for a minute, through reflecting on those qualities that we can all know to some degree, but bringing them together all in the same time of that quality of content, those qualities of contentment, warmth, caring, energy, brightness, stillness, and confidence, all melding together into this moment. And setting the stage for the mind that wants to just be with a very simple object of, say, the breathing, our primary object for meditation. Setting the stage with those qualities of mind free from the hindrances, the mind will just want to naturally settle with something calming, stilling, settling, and peaceful. And Ajahn Chah didn't spend a lot of time discussing things like stages of jhana and all the different attainments that are talked about, of course, in the teachings, the scriptures, but more just that quality of peacefulness and stillness, to be able to see the workings of the mind. and to enjoy it, to really be there with it, and not to shy away from it. And words like jhana can have a lot of expectation loaded with them, but just to really keep it at its simple basis of allowing one's mind, one's heart to just settle and absorb with the pleasure of something simple, like in breathing and out breathing, allowing the mind to sink into that experience. Really, to me, is the best expression of the practical experience of absorption. And we don't have to get into the conceptual definitions of each of the stages of jhana, but just to allow the pleasure and of that experience to take over our whole being, the absorption in that very, very simple process of in and out breathing. And that in itself, when developed and really moved into, is sufficient for the development of insight, the reflection on the qualities of arising and passing, the deepening of the understanding that all of life's experiences will arise, have their time, and pass away. The realization that no matter how much we try and seek gratification and satisfaction in this realm, that we're always going to be coming up just a bit short, even in the most sublime pursuits, because if it's part of the conditioned realm, it's not a sure thing. As Ajahn Chah would say, not a sure thing. It will change. Everything has the nature to change. So how can it be ultimately satisfying? And to realize that essentially in this realm of experience, there is no personal control. There's a modicum of how we can train the mind, how we can attend to things, what we can attend to, that we can train ourselves in through the development of really skillful mental qualities, appropriate attention, how to attend to what it is that is conducive to insight. Those things we can practice with, develop, but there's no essential owner of any quality, any state of mind, of any experience. Things arise due to conditions, pass away due to conditions. There's an influence that can be had in establishing those conditions, but how they appear follows their own natural law. The body has its own natural law associated with it. It has of a nature to age, nature to sicken, a nature to pass away. This is unavoidable, inevitable. The mind has certain qualities, certain laws that it follows in response to the world around us. And there is essentially no personal agent in charge. So this deep understanding of anatta, we come to gradually, little by little. And Ajahn Chah was always encouraging of contemplating these three characteristics in our daily life, not just in meditation, to bring us to that full understanding, that full realization of the way the conditioned world works, so that over time, as we see that as it happens and as it develops more deeply, then that sense of disenchantment, dispassion with having all of our needs met and having a place of refuge within the world, we will start to let go of that just naturally by understanding these three characteristics. So gradually the result is this sense of turning away from this samsara as a place of refuge, and allowing more of an experience of the unconditioned to be known. So Ajahn Chah's legacy for us, and as we reflected along at this meeting that we just finished, was his legacy is there for us. He, gave us a comprehensive set of tools and reflections based on very much the comprehensive teachings that the Buddha gave. And it's up to us to really maintain that right from the very basic core wat, following the policies and procedures and duties that have been set out by the Buddha and by Ajahn Chah and by our teachers here in all of the monasteries, to really hold to that and not to let it deteriorate. There's a lot of pull in the world for, even in monasteries, even in some of the good forest monasteries, some of the conditions have started to deteriorate from this standard. But it's up to us to keep the standard going that Luang Por Chah established for us, and with reminders and diligence and encouragement and the examples of our teachers, we can do that. So I'll just leave that for this evening's reflection.